How's it treating you?
So far it's great. It's nice and warm and stuff. We haven't really got out to see um, like Mexico much yet. Just kind of a drive in from the airplane, but the hotel's great. So
Awesome. So I know that you're fighting Polo Reyes at UFC on ESPN plus 17 in Mexico City, Mexico. Uh, what do you know about your opponent, Polo Reyes?
so I've watched some of his fights. He's definitely kind of more of a boxer. He likes to stand and brawl, and I don't think that's going to be the best option for him with the kind of power that I bring.
Nice. So do you feel like you will have the advantage on the feet?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. He's got into a lot of wars and brawled, and it kind of sometimes it works out for him, and sometimes it doesn't. But he's definitely never gone in there with somebody that can hit as hard as me.
Right. Awesome. And so the last time we talked, you unfortunately had a loss against Mass Sales. Looking back on it, what have you learned thus far? It being that it was your second loss in the UFC. How are you going to get your win, and what did you learn?
Yeah. So I mean, again, as far as physical training and skill building and all that stuff, I've just continued to grow since then. I think where I was at in that fight, I think my skills and technique and stuff were all more than enough to get the job done. Unfortunately, I just went in, I think with the wrong mindset, trying to finish the fight as quickly as I could, and kind of being overzealous, and then kind of even though my cardio was great, by the time I got to the third round, going at 110%, I just couldn't keep it up. So.
And I know that the last time we talked, you said it was just a bit, some things that you did wrong. You said it wasn't your training. You said it was just a physical attribute where I just gave everything. I fell down. He gained advantage of the weight, and that's where it ended. But this time, if the fight ends up on the ground, do you feel that you will have the advantage, or do you feel like you'll be able to work your way around it and work your own game, I should say?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think on the ground, both offensively and defensively, I think my ground game's a lot better. So if it ends up there, I think I'm going to have a big advantage.
Awesome. And as far as weight goes so far, how's your weight?
My weight's great. 145 is kind of my natural weight class. This will be my like 12th time making it. I think I've done the majority of my fights at 145, and I've only got one loss at 145, which is obviously against Matt Sales, and it's one I'd like to get back one day. But otherwise, my other two losses were at 155, so I definitely feel 145 is my more natural weight class.
Okay, and as far as the training camp for Matt Sales and then the training camp for Polo Reyes, is there anything that differs, or is most of it just kind of the same?
It's pretty much the same. We spent a little more time in Vegas for Matt Sales. This one we kept a little closer to home. But I feel like we just took everything we gained and built on in the Matt Sales training camp, and then we've just souped it up even more for this training camp.
And I see you've been getting some work in at the what is it, Muskoka Renos gym?
So Muskoka Reynolds is one of my sponsors.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
So
I'm doing all my training at House of Champions in Stony Creek, and then I go and do a bit of sparring and stuff at Parabellum in Oakville.
awesome. Can you talk a little bit more about the style of training that you've had at those two different places?
Yeah, I mean, House of Champions, we've got my head coach, Krulin. He's from Romania. He's done a lot of Muay Thai and stuff. He's coached a lot of other UFC fighters before. So, he's been there and done that. So he knows kind of what to expect.
Awesome. And UFC on ESPN Plus 17 this Saturday in Mexico City. You have three featherweight bouts. One of them being the main event. Two others being yourself against Polo Reyes, and then you also have, let's see here, you have uh, what is it, Martin Bravo versus Steven Peterson. With those two other fights, who do you see coming out the victor?
I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to the other fights. I've been so focused on my fight, but I think with the main event, I think I'm leaning towards Jeremy Stevens. I've been a fan of his for a while. He's another 45er, but he definitely carries a lot of power like I do, and I think if he's able to land some punches, he's going to be able to finish the air.
Great, great. So do you think that you and him will have a similar outcome in the fight, or will it differ?
It'll be close. I think I'll have the better knockout, but yeah, I'm sure he'll get a knockout too.
Awesome. So how do you see yourself getting your first win in the UFC? You know, because I know that you're very anxious and you're waiting to get that number one win. What does it feel like now that you're two fights in and you're trying to get that first win? I know most of the fighters, some of them come in, they get their first win, you know, they rant and rave about it, but it's been another story. What do you have to do to get that first win?
I think I just have to rely on my skill and stuff, and go back to kind of the same mentality I had in the fights before the UFC. Coming into the UFC, I wanted to finish fights faster and do some more spectacular stuff. But I think just kind of going back to relying on my skill, doing what I do best, and the finishes, the knockouts will come.
So you've noticed that there's been a bit of a change in your mentality. That in the beginning you were all knockouts, trying to get the quick finish, and now you seem you're a bit more relaxed, a bit more humble. And that I feel like that will most definitely help you. Just because in your recent fight it was very entertaining. You put in a great fight. It wasn't a fight where you just laid down. It was a one-sided affair. It was a back and forth fight, and you did everything you can to try to win. So I think with this mentality now, it will definitely benefit you. Um, and you know, being in Mexico, actually, have you been in Mexico before? Is this your first
Uh,
time?
yeah, this is my first time.
So are you excited to try anything new in Mexico, either before the fight, after the fight? Talk to us a little bit about that.
We'll see what happens after the fight. I mean, right now I'm just so focused on the fight.
Hmm.
I don't really plan on going out or doing anything or sightseeing or anything like that
Hmm.
until we've got the fight over with. So once we get in there and win this fight, then we'll see about maybe checking out some sites and stuff.
Gotcha. You definitely got to eat some tacos, man. If you're a meat lover, those are some things you got to try out. But Polo Reyes, just like you, is on a two-fight losing streak. He's been in the UFC for quite a while now. Um, how do you think him being on a two-fight losing streak? How do you think he's going to come out?
I think he always tries to come out aggressive. He's coming down to 145 now for this fight, which
Right.
I think is might end up being a mistake for him. I think
Okay.
he's coming down here thinking that 145ers aren't going to have as much power, and he's going to be able to kind of land big and he won't get hurt and stuff. But I think once he walks in there and realizes that I hit just as hard as any welterweight, that him depleting himself to try and get down here really didn't do him any favors.
Awesome. And in training camp, is there anybody that you brought to this training camp that you would like to, throw out there? Any names?
Well, I got one of my close training partners, Shane Campbell. He's a five-time UFC vet. He's also got a fight coming up outside the UFC. And then we've got Dennis Purick, a newly signed. So Dennis Purick's also got a fight coming up outside the UFC. Then a newer training partner, Deanna Balbiza. She just signed with the UFC. She's going to be fighting in UFC Boston. So very excited to see how she does there. But yeah, I mean, everybody, and then obviously my coaches, Crew Lynn, Adrian, everybody's been super helpful for this training camp.
And what's been the feedback from your hometown people back in Muskoka? What type of things have they been telling you, either on social media, in person? What's the support been like?
The sport's been amazing. Even though I'm coming off of a couple losses, they've stuck with me since the beginning, and they've seen what I can do when I'm in the ring, and they know that it's I'm going to be able to showcase that this time around.
Great. And let's get a bit more personal. I like asking some of the fighters this question. You being a father yourself, how do you balance your life of being a professional athlete and being a professional father? You have one in the other hand and one in the other. What's the balance like, and how do you succeed in that? What's the success like?
Yeah, I mean it's hard, especially coming from a small town. I have to travel a lot for training. So whenever I'm home with my son, it's 110%. Dad time. It's kind of I forget about everything else, and I just focus on that. So and then it's the exact opposite. As soon as I leave the house and I head to training, then it's 110% training. So it's hard at times, and you're almost living two lives. But to be able to compete at a level like this in the UFC, you have to be able to kind of shut out the rest of the world and have a super supportive family, and it's gonna stick with you even when you can't pay them as much attention as you should.
Nice. And I know you last time you fought was in Ottawa, which is near your hometown. Um, Being that you're in Mexico now and that you've traveled and you're there, would you much? I'm sure you'd much rather prefer a fight that's a few hours away from you rather than a fight that you have to travel for, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just for travel's sake. I mean, everything else, I mean, I'm in a hotel. Wherever I go, I'm in a hotel anyways, and when I fight, I'm in the cage. So it's all that stuff's the exact same. It's nice when the crowd is your own crowd, but again, once you're in the cage, you kind of shut everything out anyways. So I don't think this Mexican crowd cheering for Polo is going to make a difference.
Yeah, Mexican crowds, the way they work is if you throw hands, they love you, man. They love the Mexicans at first, but if you show that you're capable of being a great fighter and putting your heart out there, they'll definitely applaud you for that. But going back to your fight, let's say you go in there, it's successful. You do everything you need to do. Your game plans goes well. They hand you the microphone. If you call somebody out, who will it be? And if not, what are some things that you're looking forward to saying in that octagon?
I mean, I'd like to get that one back against Matt Sales. I'd like to fight him again, but I think coming off one victory, it doesn't really give me the right to ask for fights. So I'd like to
Right.
just stay busy, fight as many guys as I can in the 145-pound division until I get some momentum, and then I can start avenging some losses. But once I'm in the ring, I definitely have to, thank everybody that's kind of helped me on this journey so far. I mean, I've shouted them out before after fights in smaller arenas and stuff. But yeah, it'd be nice to show my gratitude for everyone, in front of thousands of people here in Mexico and millions of people watching all over the world.
Awesome, man. And if you want right now, do you mind letting everybody know how they can follow you on all social media platforms?
Yeah, so just on Facebook, it's Kyle the Monster Nelson. On Instagram, it's the Monster 705 underscore UFC. On Twitter, it's the underscore monster. And I always got to thank my sponsors, Mussolini's Sports Grill. They'll be showing my fight. That's going to be kind of the official viewing party. The Sport Lab, Sheath Underwear, Muskoka Renos, Cooler Meal Management Bags, Urban Beard, Copperhead Distillery, Highlander Brew Co., and Sire Biosciences.
A man with all the sponsors. You don't need anybody else, huh?
No, no, I mean, with this team, we're going to go all the way to the top, so this is all I need.
Awesome, man. Kyle, the Monster Nelson, I truly, truly appreciate your time. I know that it's fight week. You're undergoing a weight cut. It's a short time, and it means so much to these fighters. So again, I really appreciate the time that you have given us. Again, I'm Sergio Guerrero from Nutri Corner MMA. Kyle, the Monster Nelson, faces Polo Reyes at UFC on ESPN Plus 17 in Mexico City, Mexico. Catch it there on ESPN Plus. Kyle, I appreciate your time. Thank you, man.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Don't forget, guys, they keep fighting and I keep posting. See you guys soon.